It is. It is. Monday episode of Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Man, he caught me off guard with that. Flash that one up on the screen again. I own it, man. It's so funny. People on Twitter yesterday, after the Bengals pulled off their amazing comeback, I mean, Kansas City stopped playing in the second half. Patrick Mahomes turned into mud in the second half. But obviously, the Bengals defense was incredible. Joe Burrow was awesome. What a story. Cincinnati was down 21-3 in the first half at Arrowhead, mind you. Their goose was cooked, or so I thought. I tweeted that out. That was very early. You see the timestamp on there, 3:17 p.m. So that was maybe 2 or 3 drives into the game. I tweeted out, Bengals will get smoked today. And oh my goodness, 40 people must have tagged me onto the Old Takes Exposed account, like one, and people were trying to use that tweet against me to argue with me about other things. I was wrong. Life goes on. I'm happy for Cincinnati. That was incredible. Welcome in to everybody with us here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. If you're watching live or if you watch this later on taped, do us a favor. It doesn't matter when you watch. Smash that like button. Smash that like button and subscribe to 5 Reasons Sports YouTube. I did promise Level 2 Noob that if he showed up into the live chat, he would get key lime pie today. You got to bring your own pie, BYOP, all right? We've got even moonshine we'll be handing out a little bit later, key lime pie moonshine. It's going to be a great time, guys. Jim Harbaugh, there's a lot of noise, a lot of rumors out there. So late last week, it became apparent that, hey, maybe Harbaugh, current coach of the Michigan Wolverines, he might, after all, have legitimate interest in coaching in the National Football League. Reports of a Vikings interview, which I understand has already happened, came to light. And then shortly after that, started to be some links to the Miami Dolphins. So my question to you guys, now I will make this prediction, whether it's Harbaugh or Mike McDaniel or Kellen Moore, hope it's not Kellen Moore, no matter who the next head coach of the Miami Dolphins will be, I believe we're going to have that person signed, sealed, and delivered by the end of this week. I don't think we get out of this week. And by the way, it's been actually exactly 3 days. 3 weeks, 3 days. No, it's been longer than 3 days. It's been exactly 3 weeks since Brian Flores was let go. So the coaching search is getting close to a month here. I believe by the end of this week, the Miami Dolphins will have a new head coach. But once Jim Harbaugh, reports of him interviewing with the Minnesota Vikings came to light, he's linked to the Miami Dolphins job shortly thereafter. Do you guys believe this was Stephen Ross's plan all along? Do you believe that all along behind the scenes, Ross, despite what he said 3 weeks ago, I'm not going to be the guy to take Harbaugh from Michigan. We know Ross is arguably Michigan's biggest booster, benefactor. He's a University of Michigan alum. He and Harbaugh are close. He said he didn't want to be the guy to take Harbaugh from Michigan. But, friends, if Harbaugh's looking to leave Michigan for the NFL anyway, might as well be Stephen Ross who takes Harbaugh. Could this have been the plan all along? I would like to think so. Because if this has been the plan all along, it makes the other things that have transpired look less incompetent on the Dolphins' part. Why is the search dragged out and it's not moving with any amount of haste? Right? You've seen, New York Giants at the end of last week, the Giants decided we want to get this done by the weekend. Boom, we've got our guy. It's Brian Daboll. Where the Miami Dolphins late last week planned to have interviews happening into this week, finalist interviews, which was going to include Daboll before he took the Giants job. Will include, and I think his interview has already happened today, Mike McDaniel and Kellen Moore reportedly as well. Why are the Dolphins dragging this along? If they really did covet Brian Daboll, which a lot of people were reporting at the end of last week, why did they drag their feet and allow the Giants to snatch the guy that they wanted most? If the Dolphins really were waiting for Jim Harbaugh all along, that would explain why the rest of the search has moved so slowly, why they seem to have allowed Daboll to go somewhere else just because the Giants moved and acted more quickly than the Dolphins did. Under normal circumstances, you would say that sounds like incompetence, too much indecision in your coaching search. You allowed somebody else you may have wanted to go to another team. You could explain some of that away if if Stephen Ross has been waiting on Jim Harbaugh. The other thing you could explain away by that, and it's why I hope this has been the master plan all along, is I always thought from day one the candidates list was strange. Okay. Why didn't it include someone like Doug Peterson, who's been a Super Bowl winning head coach in the past and is currently out of work, probably looking for work? Why doesn't it include Jim Harbaugh, who has very relevant head coaching experience in the NFL? Why isn't Eric Bieniemy getting more consideration in Miami and anywhere else? Like, I thought that the actual list of candidates, official candidates, has looked a little bit incomplete and a little bit inexperienced when most of the people that they've been talking to are guys who have not coached, at least head coached in the NFL level before, mostly talking to coordinators. And if they had their primary candidate, an experienced guy like Jim Harbaugh, who they had to wait for, that would explain why they're interviewing so many inexperienced people as either backup options / safety nets or just people that they're kind of throwing out there to kill time until they get an answer from Harbaugh. So I would like to think Jim Harbaugh has been plan A. I do want to note, though, for everybody in the live chat, and God, real deal, I hope you're right. He says, in Ross, we trust. I hope that this was the master plan. Okay. I will note, though, that to me, and you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong, most of the links, most of the reports that I'm seeing linking Jim Harbaugh to the Miami Dolphins over the last couple of days, nothing that concrete, right? I mean, the links to Minnesota are concrete. Jim Harbaugh has already interviewed with the Minnesota Vikings. It's been mainstream news, right? Most of the links to the Dolphins are from reporters that, yeah, this one guy's got a check mark on Twitter, blue check mark, so he's verified, but I've never heard of him. You've got other people who you have heard of that are not reporting he's definitely in the mix, that he might be in the mix. Let me give you a few examples, and it's why I'm not ready to sit here and say the links between Harbaugh and the Miami Dolphins are legitimate. I'm not ready to say that yet, okay? So one that got everyone talking, a blue check mark account on Twitter. So he's verified. Hallelujah. He does some media work in Chicago. Mark Carmen, who I had never heard of before this tweet went viral. I have heard some secondhand info from some NFL people that I talked to, various group chats that, Carmen is pretty solid, but I think he does more reporting on baseball than he does on football. But Mark Carmen tweeted this out over the weekend. Hearing from a reliable source, he said, that Jim Harbaugh will tell the team today, and he tweeted this yesterday, by the way, and when he says the team, he's talking about Michigan. Hearing from a reliable source, Jim Harbaugh will tell the team today / tomorrow that he is leaving Michigan to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Could have taken the Minnesota job, preferred Miami. And then he writes in parentheses, outside chance Michigan pays over the top and he stays, but bet on Miami, he said. So as I mentioned, I had never heard of Mark Carmen before I saw that tweet. That's one red flag. Another red flag is his timeline is already unraveling. Okay, Carmen said that Harbaugh is going to tell Michigan today, which was yesterday, or tomorrow, which is today, that he's going to be leaving to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Now, okay, yesterday has already passed. As I'm doing this live right now, it's 3:07 p.m. on Monday, and we haven't heard anything. Now, actually, there was a Michigan meeting today, I was told, but it had nothing to do with Jim Harbaugh leaving or staying. It was about putting together their spring conditioning program. So I think this Mark Carmen report, it doesn't mean Harbaugh's not coming, but I think Mark Carmen's report may have already been debunked, right? When you talked about Harbaugh telling the Michigan team either yesterday or today, and today is it's still today, but, we're burning some daylight here, that he would tell Michigan he was leaving for Miami. That has not transpired yet. So listen, he could be half right. Okay. Mark Carmen might be 100% right for all we know about Harbaugh leaving Michigan for Miami, but I don't think he's 100% right about the little old timeline that he presented there. So that's one thing that got everybody buzzing. Oh my God, Harbaugh is coming to Miami after all. Here was an Armando Salguero tweet, which does link Miami to Harbaugh, but he's not saying it's happening. He's saying it could happen. Armando tweeted out, he said he had a plugged-in former Dolphins employee who retains connections to the team tell me last night he expects Stephen Ross will do what he can to hire Jim Harbaugh if the Michigan coach is indeed considering leaving Michigan for the NFL. We'll see. He ended it at that. Now, this is a tweet from a very good reporter, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, that's linking Harbaugh to Minnesota. Now, the thing about the Minnesota links, very concrete because we know he's interviewed. The Dolphins links for Harbaugh, not so concrete. Are they negotiating through back channels? Maybe, because, yeah, Jim Harbaugh and Stephen Ross have a friendship and a connection. So there could be things happening behind the scenes there. I'll just put it this way. When Minnesota is reaching out to Jim Harbaugh for an interview process, which could lead to a job offer, they're doing a lot of that through his agent and representatives of Harbaugh. So there's a lot more official protocol that's happening there. If Stephen Ross is having conversations with Jim Harbaugh, they're doing it directly. They have each other's cell phone numbers. They have a relationship. So it is possible that there are things happening behind the scenes in a less official capacity linking Ross to Harbaugh, whereas Minnesota has to do everything in a more official capacity. But Jeremy Fowler tweeted this. Jim Harbaugh conveyed legitimate interest in the Vikings head coaching job during his interview with the team, per source. With Minnesota coming away feeling Harbaugh is ready for a return to the NFL. As of now, he's still considered in the mix for that job. How would you guys feel? There's mostly Dolphin fans in here. I know we do get fans of other teams who pop in every now and then. And we welcome everybody. We welcome all fandom. We welcome all perspectives. This is an all-inclusive 5 Reasons Sports Network. But for those of you in here who are Dolphin fans, if Jim Harbaugh does leave Michigan, but he goes to Minnesota, not Miami, would you be pissed at Stephen Ross? Like, would you be legit pissed at the Dolphins and saying, okay, this guy is a proven commodity in the NFL, and our owner, the man who owns the Miami Dolphins, knows Jim Harbaugh better than any of the other owners in the league and has a more close personal, even a financial connection to him, because Ross is basically Harbaugh's sugar daddy at Michigan. He's probably paying most of his salary. Would you be pissed if Harbaugh leaves college football to go to the NFL and lands somewhere else other than Miami? I would be pissed. Okay, at that point, you have to look at Stephen Ross and say, you have a coaching vacancy. You know, you had somebody very experienced who's coached a team to a Super Bowl before in the NFL, former coach of the year. You know him so well. You could have gotten him here if you really wanted to, and you let him go somewhere else. And also, I would presume if Stephen Ross allows Jim Harbaugh to come back to the NFL, but not to Miami, I would have to assume that Ross's feelings towards Michigan would have something to do with that. That Stephen Ross would be thinking, you know what? I don't want my pals in the Michigan Boosters clubs, and I don't want the Michigan fans to be upset at me for stealing their head coach. So, like he said 3 weeks ago, I assumed that this may have been a bit of a bluff. But he said 3 weeks ago to Ross, he said, I'm not going to be the guy to take Harbaugh from Michigan. So does he feel like he owes something to that fan base not to be the guy who looks like he's taking their coach away? If that's the case, like Anthony says, if it does come down to that, you should sell the team. Because if your devotion to Michigan is causing you to make poor decisions with the Miami Dolphins in order to favor Michigan over Miami, then you should not be owning this team. Let me just throw that out there. So if Harbaugh leaves Michigan, I hope it's to Miami, not to Minnesota or anywhere else. Now, let me throw this out there. And I'm going to look at some of the responses in the live chat to see how you guys feel about Harbaugh. Now, most of the people, when I asked if you would be mad at Stephen Ross if he allowed Harbaugh to go somewhere else in the NFL other than Miami, I'm seeing a lot of yeses. And Mel says very mad, very, very mad. Now, I have had some people on Twitter ask me, why do you want this guy? Like, why do you want Harbaugh? He beat Ohio State once. Oh, big whoop. Okay, first of all, he beat Ohio State finally, got into the college football playoff. But the NFL experience, guys, I don't know if these people going at me on social media, were you born in like 2011? Am I arguing with children in their mother's basements? I don't know. But no, Jim Harbaugh to me, the fact that he's been to 2 NFC championship games, got to a Super Bowl, former coach of the year in the NFC, proven NFL commodity, compared to most of the people the Dolphins have been interviewing, those with no head coaching experience. Jim Harbaugh, to me, has the cachet. He's got the proven track record of the National Football League. That could absolutely be a home run hire if it happens. Now, the guy we're going to bring on in a moment, Alfredo Arteaga from 3 Yards Per Carry, I thought made a good point that that if you were to bring in Harbaugh, it seems like it's either going to be a home run or an unmitigated disaster, that it's going to be one of those things. Folks, as a lifelong, long-suffering Miami Dolphins fan, where I've also seen the Dolphins oftentimes, whether it be through the draft or the coaches that they hire, they have favored high floor versus high ceiling moves, right? They've taken the safe road so often. If you're telling me that hiring a guy like Jim Harbaugh, if the Dolphins can get it done, it's a volatile hire, basically. It can either be a home run and pay off big time, or it could end up just being a complete implosion. I would take that chance. I would. I think the juice is worth the squeeze. I think this franchise has been irrelevant to mediocre and rarely ever any good. I mean, they don't have a playoff win in 21 years. 22, well, yeah, I think still 21. 21 years since the last playoff win. Some of you in the chat probably weren't even born yet the last time this team won a playoff game. When you've been playing in mediocrity and worse for so long, I think sometimes you have to try to hit a home run. So I think the juice would be worth the squeeze on that one. So if you're asking me, why would you want Harbaugh? I mean, Harbaugh has a proven NFL track record. I do think the dynamic, if they were to bring in Jim Harbaugh, the dynamic between Harbaugh and Chris Grier would be very interesting, because Jim Harbaugh is anything but a yes man, right? We don't know exactly what was going on behind the scenes between Chris Grier and Brian Flores. We'll never know all the stories. We know that there was a power struggle there. Like, we know there was a power struggle, and apparently Brian Flores lost that power struggle, and Chris Grier didn't want to work with a guy like that who was trying to take power away from him. I cannot imagine that if Jim Harbaugh got hired, he wouldn't want some kind of say over personnel, right? That he wouldn't want maybe even over an overriding say, a final say over personnel. That doesn't seem like the type of person Chris Grier is eager to work with. So I would love to see, maybe if Stephen Ross were to hire Jim Harbaugh, this is me thinking out loud, I'm not reporting anything here, but maybe if Stephen Ross were to hire Jim Harbaugh, he might end up giving the axe to Grier, or taking a lot of power away from Grier. You have to wonder that this could be maybe, because we all just assumed in recent weeks that Chris Grier maybe has, incriminating photos of Stephen Ross, that this guy can get away with everything while climbing up the ladder throughout the last 20 years that he's been with the Dolphins organization. Maybe if Ross were to actually go out and hire Harbaugh, that might be Ross choosing somebody else over Grier. So we have to look out for that, folks. Now, if it's not Harbaugh, I would be totally cool with taking a chance on Mike McDaniel, right? And when we talked about why Stephen Ross's timeline has moved so slowly and deliberately throughout this coaching hire process, one of the theories that I gave you was maybe the reason why this is moving so slowly is because they were waiting on Jim Harbaugh. Another possibility is they were waiting on Mike McDaniel. He coaches the 49ers offense. Maybe they were waiting on the 49ers to get eliminated so that McDaniel would be fully available and they can move ahead. That's another theory. Now, Mike McDaniel, to me, honestly, some people were feeling certain ways about Brian Daboll going to the New York Giants, right? That they were actually upset. Hey, why didn't the Dolphins make him an offer and keep him away from the Giants? Because this guy would be so great with Tua, right? Daboll worked with Tua before at Alabama. Personally, I think Mike McDaniel would be even better for Tua, because you guys are thinking about this two-dimensionally, not three-dimensionally. You're thinking about it two-dimensionally in terms of McDaniel's a quarterback guy who's worked with Tua before. 2 + 2 = 4. This is perfect. I'm looking at it from another dimension, right? What is one of the things that Tua Tagovailoa needs to find more success in the NFL? That would be a big-time running game to take more attention away from Tua. You know who's an expert at building a big-time running game? Mike McDaniel. I think Mike McDaniel, you look at the success that San Francisco has had during the McDaniel tenure with Jimmy Garoppolo, who might be even worse than Tua, Oh, you see, I phrased it in a way that makes me sound like a hater. I swear to you, I'm a Tua skeptic, not a Tua hater. But even a skeptic like me would say, yeah, I'd rather have Tua Tagovailoa than Jimmy Garoppolo. And Jimmy Garoppolo in that 49ers offense that Mike McDaniel has such a big-time fingerprint on, Jimmy Garoppolo has been to 2 NFC championship games and a Super Bowl in the last 3 years. So if you can get that much success out of a very handsome loser like Jimmy G, imagine what they could get out of Tua Tagovailoa. Mike McDaniel, he'd be a great choice. I prefer Harbaugh because of his experience, but Mike McDaniel, to me, I think would be a great candidate. A great candidate. All right, let me bring on, I was going to say our first guest of the day, but he's actually our only guest of the day. We are devoting Monday to Alfredo Arteaga from 3 Yards Per Carry. We must shop at the same stores, Alfredo, because I think we got caught wearing the same hat. How are you?
Yeah, right. It's this one or the orange one, right? And I decided to wear the black one today. So, yeah, I didn't know that you were wearing the same thing. Next time we got to coordinate the whole outfit.
I gotta say, and listen, Manny keeps thinking he's embarrassing me by putting that up there. I tweeted that out, like, you see the timestamp 3:17, so that was during the first quarter. I tweeted out the Bengals will get smoked today. And I have the betting slip where I bet on Kansas City -7 just to prove what a mush I am. I mushed the Chiefs. They're up 21-3. No chance they lose that game. Alf, before we get into this Dolphin stuff, let's talk a little bit about the championship games. I mean, Kansas City stopped playing in the second half. That was a really, really poor showing and a poor finish for Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, and it's really I wouldn't call it interesting. It's funny, really, to me, how everybody's afraid to say what actually happened in that game. Pat Mahomes imploded in that second half.
He did.
Like if that were Tua, if that were Tua doing that, and which he kind of did do that against Tennessee, but let's say he did that in a big spot, everybody'd be up in arms, right?
Oh, I have 4 tweets in my drafts already that I'd be ready to fire off if that happened.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes absolutely fell apart. If he just plays moderately okay in that second half, they score more than those measly 3 points at the end, which he was determined to give away because he actually fumbled at his own 32-yard line. They had a chip shot field goal. I could just feel myself thinking, put yourself in Harrison Butker's shoes, okay? You're a great kicker. You make a lot of money. You've won a lot of big games. And you're looking at the field, you're like, okay, we really can't lose here, right? Like if we score a touchdown here, we win. And if not, I trot out for a little chip shot field goal that's even shorter than an extra point try. And then your guy, your quarterback, your all-world quarterback, keeps taking sack after sack after sack, and you end up with a 50-yard try to send you into overtime for the Super Bowl. So, yeah, Mahomes was just bad in that second half. And you got to give credit. You got to give credit where it's due. That Bengals defense played great. And Lou Anarumo, guy, nobody has made more chicken salad out of chicken shit in the NFL this year than Lou Anarumo. So he deserves some interviews. And yeah, I didn't think he had any interviews, but one of my listeners pointed out to me that he did interview for Minnesota and the Giants job. So, that's a guy I guess you could watch.
Yeah. So it's going to be the improbable story of Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. They're going to take on the LA Rams. Is this a thing we're going to do every year now where we have a home team playing in the Super Bowl? I mean, it had never happened before, since the 60s, whenever they started calling it the Super Bowl. And now it's happening 2 straight years. Tampa Bay hosted it last year and they won. Do you think the Rams follow suit? Are the Los Angeles Rams going to be the Super Bowl champions? Because that's who I'm going with, Alfredo. But I think I bet against Cincinnati all postseason long, and it hasn't gotten me very far. So what do you think? Can the Bengals pull off this upset?
No, I would say that the Rams, they were built for this, to have the best roster. I think they win this game. I think we're going to get a close one, though. It's going to be a good game. Cincinnati's no joke. Like they deserve to be there. Yeah. But yeah, this is the second year in a row that a home team is going to, there's essentially a home team in the Super Bowl. But in 1984, if you remember, the 49ers played the Dolphins, and the 49ers played the game at Palo Alto. And the 49ers essentially took a bus that lasted all of 22 minutes from their practice facility to the stadium, which was where Stanford played. So let's face it, that was a home game for them too. Okay,
Yeah, that's a
they
good
got
point.
to stay in their own facility. So yeah, so I guess let's call it the third time it's happened in history. But I think the Rams are, they're kind of ready for this, right? Like it's their time. Like they should get this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Rams pull it off. It should be close. It's not going to be a blowout though. It's going to be a close game.
By the way, thank you, Shake Money. Thank you so much for the super chat donation. And he must have seen my tweet over the weekend. I promise I wasn't trolling. I was being 100% serious. He says, I think I may be onto something. George Godsey, Eric Studesville, co-head coaches. I mean, right? I mean, listen, if Harbaugh says no, if maybe our guy Mike McDaniel might decide, you know what, I've already worked with a mediocre quarterback long enough. I don't want to go from one mediocre quarterback to another. Let me stay put here in San Francisco. Maybe you go the co-offensive coordinator to head coaching route. Now, Alf, as here, the chosen religion of this show, we're all inclusive, is the Church of Tua Science. Okay, where we try our hardest. I committed a couple of sins over the weekend. I have been a confession and everything. I think we're square now, but we try to approach everything Tua Tagovailoa from a non-biased, scientific approach, meaning we don't tolerate the blind hatred, nor do we tolerate the blind worship. We try to approach Tua Tagovailoa with logic. I am here to maybe correct your attitude a little bit, Alf, because I noticed when you were talking about Cincinnati, you gave a lot of credit to their defense. While you also kind of indirectly compared Tua to Patrick Mahomes when you talked about how people would complain if Tua had that sort of second half. I didn't can you add something in? Because I didn't hear you give a lot of credit to Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow drafted in the same draft as Tua. He's on his way to a Super Bowl while Tua has a 9 a.m. tee time tomorrow. Can you give some credit to Joe Burrow?
Oh, he's had a fabulous year, and he might even be a top 6 quarterback in the NFL, maybe.
Yep.
Like that's a good spot to put him. Although I did my rankings for all the playoff quarterbacks, and I had him 5th, and I had Matthew Stafford 7th, which kind of tells you all you need to know, right? 14 quarterbacks in, and the guys that are in the Super Bowl are number 5 and number 7. So how great does your quarterback have to be? Or maybe does your roster have to be really good?
Both. I honestly think both. Right. And so,
if you can get both, that's great,
Yeah.
But like I would say that the Packers have the best roster that was in the playoffs, and they were one and done. San Francisco, their roster wasn't all that great, but they had all the right players in all the right places, and they played the right style, and they made it pretty far, right? They were a Jimmy G meltdown away from going to the playoffs, right? I mean, going to the Super Bowl. So, yeah, Joe Burrow has been absolutely fabulous. And, I think he's putting to rest a lot of the comparisons between him and Justin Herbert. But, let's make no mistake how he played these 2 games in the playoffs. Like, he was just efficient. Like, he wasn't it wasn't spectacular. What made him good in these 2 games is that when he did make the mistakes, he didn't make them again, right?
Right.
Like, his 2 interceptions in these playoffs have been followed by long drives and efficient play the rest of the way. So, yeah, he's been absolutely fabulous. And that team is fabulous. Like, if you look at that skill percent, oddly enough, the only thing wrong with that team is that their offensive line stinks.
Yes.
Okay. Which could be a problem against Aaron Donald, right? So
could be. We'll see how that one goes.
We shall see in 2 weeks. And that's why I give the Rams an edge. I think their defense is really, really good. I think they'll make it hard on Burrow. So Rams slight edge. But you could tell that Joe Burrow is like he's on his way. Like he's on his way. He's a made man now.
This is a tough hypothetical to answer, but Bromar Smelly wants to know if you, Alf, do you think Tua would have taken the same Bengals team to a Super Bowl the way Joe Burrow has?
Well, it depends. Cincinnati won 10 games, right? They went 10-7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tua went 8-4 this year. Okay, so you gotta assume that some of those games where Burrow lit it up, Tua has to do the same thing. So let's say he can't, right?
Yeah.
But can he win 10 games with an efficient defense? They were pretty much the same as far as rankings this year. The Bengals and the Dolphins. Dolphins have much more talent on defense. Let's just say they got into the playoffs. Could Tua have played those 2 games that Burrow played? Yeah, because that first game, Burrow threw one pass over 20 yards against the Tennessee Titans, and they executed. And the Bengals were fourth in YAC this season. Okay, so you're talking about a team that ranked fourth in yards after the catch. So they were making big plays out of nothing. That game against Kansas City, it was a bunch of turnovers in the second half, 3 turnovers that the Bengals gained, 2 short fields. And what did Burrow really do in those plays? He threw a screen that Perrine took in 40 yards for a touchdown, and then Joe Mixon ran for over 4 yards a carry on 21 carries. So he had a lot of help, but could he have done it? They probably don't get there, is what I would say, because Burrow had a lot of games. Could he have played that one individual game? Yeah, that was pretty much the games he was playing all year. But getting there, probably not.
So this has been a wild couple of days with the coaching carousel. At the end of last week, I really, really thought Brian Daboll was the favorite for the Dolphins, and I feel kind of bad for I assume he's a mutual friend. You probably know this guy as well, who had basically reported last week that Daboll had an offer from the Dolphins. I don't think that was the case now, because I think if he had an offer, we would have heard about it by this point, or he probably would have signed it if he had an offer from Miami before New York. So he ends up, Brian Daboll goes to New York. Now, a lot of people thought him, choosing New York over Miami or ending up in New York over Miami was an L for the Dolphins. I don't necessarily feel that way, because I like Mike McDaniel more than I like Brian Daboll, and I like Jim Harbaugh more than I like either of them. Okay, so it's not necessarily an L depending on who the Dolphins come away with here. And Alf, one of the things that, and this is conspiracy, and it's a lot of us trying to put the breadcrumbs together here. The Dolphins coaching search to this point being so slow and deliberate, and maybe being a little bit indecisive on not giving an offer to Daboll in the first place, you could explain that if it's true that they're working on something with Jim Harbaugh, that if they're working on something behind the scenes with Harbaugh, that would explain why they're killing time with the mainstream part of their coaching search. Do you think there's something here with Jim Harbaugh? Because he's become a hot name the last couple of days. I don't feel like the people reporting on it are, this guy, Carmen. I'd never heard of this guy before this report came out. I'm not necessarily going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he has a blue check mark. But do you think that there's fire here or just smoke?
I don't know. What is incarcerated Bob saying about this?
That's the guy.
So I don't know. I don't think there's much to it. I can tell you for great certainty that Brian Daboll was not offered the job on Friday.
Okay.
Because if he were, he would have been doing a press conference this morning as the Miami Dolphins head coach.
I agree.
Okay. Because usually what happens is Brian Daboll will give an ultimatum and say, "Look, they offered me the job in New York. What are you guys thinking?" And as soon as the Miami Dolphins say, "No, we'll still interview you next week," that's when you tell them, "All right, thanks for the interest, but I'm going to go take this job in New York." Because what if you tell New York that all of a sudden you tell them, "Oh, you know what? Thanks for the offer, but I'm going to go interview with the Dolphins for a few more days." Giants would have pulled the offer then and there, and who knows? Maybe you're left with no job, right? And he, and it wasn't a terrible job for him either. He has his friend Joe Shine there, so he has his general manager. And you got to think about it. He went to high school there. He went to college there. His wife is from there. He has 6 kids. Okay,
that's a lot of kids. I can't even imagine.
So he, it's kind of what he wants to do, right? Like the job is kind of built for him, right? Only problem is Daniel Jones. That's the only problem I can foresee for now. But he is retaining Patrick Graham, so that's a good start on that coaching hire. But yeah, he wasn't offered the job, and I would say Mike McDaniel is probably the leader in the clubhouse and is probably going to get the job.
Okay, so I get that. If Harbaugh were an option, because I'd love to hear your take. If Harbaugh was a legit option, do you prefer him over Mike McDaniel? Because I do. I know I've seen you tweet that you think that there'd be potential for Harbaugh to be a colossal failure or a massive success.
Yeah, I'm uneasy about it. He's been outside of the NFL for a very, very long time. It's a different dynamic. All we're hearing is that he's making outlandish demands for him returning to the job. And I understand people saying, "Oh, he's great, so just give him all the personnel power." That never works. We've been at this before, right? Giving giving all the duties to one guy and then him installing a puppet as his general manager. I don't think it's something that would work. Is he a fine coach? I'm certain he could do a great job. He could also be terrible,
Mm.
But I'd rather have a guy who's currently in the game, who is up to tune with the modern game and with modern players, and that would be Mike McDaniel. But yeah, Harbaugh just doesn't. It's not palpable to me. Like it seems like you're basically getting a Brian Flores, but with a track record. So we're still going to have that same strife. For sure, he's going to make changes in the personnel department, install all his people. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about a complete upheaval of the team, and maybe a step back in that first year. And I don't think they can afford setbacks in that first year. I think they have to hit the ground running. Whoever is the head coach here this coming year, they get no honeymoon period. Like, they got to win 10 games. They got to make the playoffs. They got to do something with this roster, because this roster's pretty much ready-made, and it's going to have a lot of cap space to fix all its perceivable problems, right? So, yeah, I guess when I'll see it. I'll believe it when I see it, but I don't think it's real as of right now.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. It's a lot of it is just people, I think, making assumptions, right? Because now that it seems pretty clear Harbaugh has enough interest in the NFL that he's taking interviews. I mean, he's interviewed with the Vikings. So I think that leads a lot of people to assume, well, if he's interviewing with the Vikings, that means Miami's got to be in on it because of the Stephen Ross connection. So I think that's one assumption there that people are making. And then another part of it, Alf, is, and I talked about this, if Harbaugh really is in the conversation, then that would kind of explain the way Miami's moved, how that they moved to this point where everything has been like, a little bit indecisive. And if they were waiting on Harbaugh, that would make sense. So I think a lot of this, Alf, is people connecting the dots more than people actually presenting legitimate reporting here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. One thing on Harbaugh is you got to understand that Stephen Ross would know, he would have an inside track whether Jim Harbaugh was actually available or he's just trying to use the Vikings and the Dolphins as leverage to get more money out of Stephen Ross to pay him to be the Michigan coach once again, right?
Yeah.
So I think he would know. And I said this on the last time you had me on. I never got the sense that billionaires like to be told no. Right?
That's a great point. Yeah.
And what happened in 2011?
I can't rub two pennies together, and I hate getting told no. So I can't imagine how much Stephen Ross hates it.
So what happened in 2011? Stephen Ross publicly emasculated his head coach, Tony Sparano, basically threw the season away by trying to clandestinely meet with Jim Harbaugh and Jeff Ireland. And what did Jim Harbaugh do? Told him no. And then a few months later, took the San Francisco job.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They may be friends, and Harbaugh may have the Michigan job, but I'm guessing Stephen Ross probably doesn't have a great appetite for what happened to him then, because I think it short-circuited that season and that run that they had going at that time, and and it made Stephen Ross look like a fool. So yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing maybe he's not going to try it this time around.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective because you're 100% right. He's been told no. Stephen Ross has been told no by Harbaugh before. Multi-billionaires do not like getting told no more than once, especially not by the same person. Let me circle back to Mike McDaniel with you. I honestly, this is why I have preferred, and admittedly early in the process, I didn't know a whole lot about Mike McDaniel's background or credentials outside of him being a name I knew. I didn't know a whole lot early. I've done a lot of research over the last couple of weeks. And for the last couple of weeks, I have preferred Mike McDaniel over Brian Daboll. A lot of people think about Daboll and McDaniel two-dimensionally, right? A lot of the Tua nears and the Tua stands were really excited about Brian Daboll because, hey, this guy, he's a quarterback guy, and he's literally worked with Tua before, so we need to get him here. Mike McDaniel is not a quarterback guy, people say. But my thing, Alf, is Mike McDaniel, he actually might have the keys to give Tua the greatest amount of success, because if he can fix that running game and if he can fix the offensive line through better blocking schemes and hopefully better players that come in, then you see, what a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, the success he's had. And I do believe Tua can be better than Jimmy Garoppolo. The success Jimmy G has had in San Francisco, Tua Tagovailoa, I think, could benefit more from Mike McDaniel than from Brian Daboll.
Absolutely. And if you're gonna get a quarterback who's really, really good at the RPO, okay, who's good on timing, right? What do you want to get that guy? First of all, if you run the RPO and he's really good at running the RPO, you need the R to go with the PO, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need a run game. And for a guy who's good on throwing, as far as throwing on time, you want to develop a play action game, right? You can't have a play action game unless you can run the ball. So Mike McDaniel basically fixes both, right? Like that's what he's good at.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. The real benefit for Tua would have been Mike McDaniel, and I think that's where it's headed right now. And yeah, I think it's the best thing that can happen to Tua Tagovailoa is build a run game here and have him throw off of the run game, and he should be fine.
Do you think we'll have a head coach by the end of the week?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I think we can have him by tomorrow morning.
Ooh. Oh, and that leads me to a question, because somebody was asking in the chat a little bit earlier if we know when the second round of interviews are happening. If I'm not mistaken, McDaniel's second interview was going to be happening today. Have you heard anything about that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's happening today, and it's unclear where it's happening, but
Right.
supposedly it's happening late afternoon. So, yeah, that's happening today, and Kellen Moore is supposed to be tomorrow. But I think you could see something like tomorrow morning, you could hear Kellen Moore pulling his name out of consideration and then announcing Mike McDaniel. I think that's the earliest you can hear an announcement will be tomorrow morning.
Well, you're already debunking our guy Stetson O, who says tonight we will have a coach. I think you might be getting a little bit overly zealous on that one, Stetson. But if he is right, I will remember that message. So I'm sure you guys have plenty to talk about Alf this week on 3 yards per carry. Where can people find it? When does it drop?
We should have as soon as they hire a coach, we'll have an emergency podcast.
Nice.
Simon Clancy is at the Senior Bowl at Mobile, Alabama. So he'll have reports from there, and we will go live with those reports as well whenever he has them. And we should be dropping sometime on Wednesday, and you could find all our stuff at the number 3 yards per carry. You could check us on our Twitter account. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on iTunes. We're pretty much anywhere. Like you turn on your computer and put in our name, and you're going to get our podcast.
Jurassic Dragon Bit is asking any thoughts on OC. I don't know how we can think about OC till we know who the head coach is, though, and it's going to be an offensive guy.
I'm interested to see what Ken Dorsey's going to do.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that is interesting.
Like
Buffalo,
I don't know
New York,
why he would go to the Giants. Like staying in Buffalo is that's a dream job.
It absolutely is.
And if he doesn't get that job, there's going to be a line. There's going to be a lot. You're going to have about 30 or 40 OCs trying to get that job in Buffalo. It's probably the best job in football right now.
I mean, I want to nudge him to Coral Gables for the offensive coordinator job. But again, I don't know why he would leave Buffalo, because he is hitching his wagon to the NFL. I think he wants to be an NFL head coach someday. So becoming an NFL offensive coordinator, especially for a team with that much offensive talent and a great quarterback, that would be the best stepping stone. So if he gets offered that job, I'm with you. If he is offered the promotion in Buffalo to replace Daboll, that would make more football sense than going to the New York Giants. He wouldn't be in the mix for, I don't know, maybe he would be for the Dolphins, but for the Hurricanes as well. I mean, staying in Buffalo to me would make the most sense. I actually had somebody in the comments, Alf, really mad at me last week for saying that Dorsey's better option is staying in Buffalo versus coming to Miami. This is when we thought Daboll might be coming to Miami. And this guy was like bashing me. I'm like, dude, I'm not talking about where the guy's going to live. Okay, if he's making the choice strictly based on lifestyle, yeah, any of us would rather be in Miami than Buffalo, but wouldn't you rather be coordinating an offense that's already like this close to being a Super Bowl team with an already proven quarterback? I mean, he can
Yeah.
spend his off seasons in Miami. He'll be fine during the winter there, coaching one of the great offenses in the sport.
And here's a little nugget I guess I could drop on your show. If Mike McDaniel gets the job, who's very likely to come with him as wide receivers coach, or maybe even possibly the offensive coordinator? Wes Welker.
Oh, that would be so cool to have him back here.
Okay, so
Wow.
that's a name you could jot down,
I
and
like it.
I can back up, and it's been reported elsewhere that they're trying to retain some of these defensive coaches. So that makes perfect sense as well. Like you don't want Gerald Alexander going anywhere. Like you've cultivated these guys, they're young stars, and I've said it on Twitter. Austin Clark, Josh Boyer, or Gerald Alexander get fired, they'll have a job within seconds. So, those are really, really good coaches. You would want to retain those guys.
Have you ever been to Buffalo, New York? Because I routinely talk trash about it. I've never actually set foot in the city.
No, it's just fun to trash them, though. So.
I remember the late, great, may he rest in peace, Jim Mandich, because he traveled, obviously he played with the Dolphins, and he also, he traveled as a color commentator for many years, and he used to say, I check into the hotel in Buffalo and I request a room without a view. And then I think he also said something. Oh, Buffalo, New York. I spent a week there one weekend or something like that. I don't know. I butchered it, but
he had a bunch of good sayings. Like
yeah.
He said, Buffalo, New York, where the men are men and the women have no teeth. It was so many. Yeah, Jim Mandich was the greatest. And to this day, that's why I do my homage at the end of every podcast. I say, that's it. There is no more. It's what Jim Mandich used to say at the end of every show. So, yeah, Mandich was the greatest.
He was the man.
Too bad that was a terrible era. Like, Dolphins just could not get over the hump on the Buffalo Bills.
That's right. No, so true. Well, Alf, I appreciate your time as always. And guys, remember, make sure you subscribe to 3 Yards Per Carry. Make sure you follow Alf on Twitter at Alf_Artiaga. And we expect a new coach is going to come in at some point this week. They will do an emergency 3 Yards Per Carry as soon as that happens. Alfredo, thank you so much, man. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Awesome stuff there by Alfredo Artiaga. My friends, do you know where I'm off to tonight? And I hope that everyone here joins us, whether you're local or not. If you're not local, get your ass on a plane and come down here. We are going to be at the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill tonight. Miami Heat at Boston Celtics watch party. The Quarterdeck is the official sports bar here of the Donno Daily Show. We're going to be down there tonight watching Heat at Celtics, 7:30 tip-off tonight. I'll be getting there right around 7:30 if you want to come on and say hello. Ethan Skolnick is going to be out there, of course, our fearless leader. And I have been told by Ethan, this is what everybody loves, he will have hats to give away. He will have 5 Reasons Sports Network hats to give away tonight at the Quarterdeck. We are going to be at the Davie location on University Drive, right across the street from Nova Southeastern University. If you want to find the address, find it very easily on your phone. Google Quarterdeck Davie. It'll come up. Guys, I'm telling you, if you haven't been out to the Quarterdeck before, tonight will be the perfect time to do it. Join us out there at the Quarterdeck. Enjoy the delicious seafood. I love to build my own poke bowl. The sushi is great. The buffalo shrimp is my favorite appetizer. If you're not a seafood fan, yeah, they got something for you guys. The chicken wings are fantastic. The burgers and sandwiches, the baby back ribs are so tender. Check it all out at the Quarterdeck. Watch every big game at the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill, and every big fight. They have every UFC pay-per-view at the Quarterdeck for 0 cover charge. You pay nothing at the door. It's a great place to wet your whistle. 2-for-1 happy hour all day, every day. They have 2-for-1 drinks. The beer is always ice cold. Maybe they'll make some hot chocolate out there for you tonight if you're feeling chilly outside. The Quarterdeck is such a great spot, guys. Check them out on the web. Check out the menu before you go and find the location nearest to you at quarterdeckrestaurants.com. We hope to see you out there tonight. 7:30 p.m. Miami Heat taking on the Celtics on the road. We will be at the Quarterdeck, Davie. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. Guys, we have an official sports book here on Donno Daily. If you haven't signed up yet at betus.com, first of all, what are you waiting for? This is a full-service sports book. Bet before the games, bet during the games. They have live betting on all of it. Yes, it's available in Florida. You hear us talk about sports betting on this channel and other channels, and you're a sports fan. You've wanted to get into it. Maybe you're not sure where to go. Maybe you're a little bit intimidated by it. How do I set up an account? Guys, at betus.com, they make it so easy. There's a reason why it's called America's favorite sports book. Their customer service is fantastic. The user interface is awesome. It's really easy to get signed up, create an account, and make a deposit. And when you make that deposit at betus.com, guys, we have a hookup for you. This is the best bonus in the industry. You will not find a bonus this good anywhere else in the gambling space. Use our code 5RSN125. That's our show code. You see it there on the screen. Sign up with our code 5RSN125, and they're going to give you a 125% sign-up bonus. If you deposit, for example, $100, they're going to give you $125 in free play money on top of your deposit. That's going to get you a long way when you're making your first wagers there. They also have a full casino on the site. You can play blackjack, other card games, table games, slot games right there at betus.com. It's like having Las Vegas in your pocket. You bet, you win, you get paid. betus.com. I want to read some questions and throw some shout outs as well. VLKV, hello. By the way, if you guys have signed up or signed on a little bit late here in the show, I would encourage you to go back and watch the episode in its entirety, because we talked a lot about the Jim Harbaugh to the Miami Dolphins links. I'm not convinced. Alfredo Arteaga is also not convinced, at least not yet, right? Most of what we're hearing, the links between Jim Harbaugh and Miami, the most concrete report on this by Mark Carmen, who already seems to be at least partially wrong with his timeline, said that Harbaugh would be telling his Michigan team either yesterday or today that he's leaving to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Yesterday has passed. Today is like, I think local time in Ann Arbor, it's like 2:50 p.m., something like that. But still, he's not informed Michigan of anything at this point. And I've never heard of Mark Carmen before these reports came out, to be quite honest with you. So it doesn't seem like that one is happening. Elsewhere, the links between Harbaugh and Minnesota look more concrete than Harbaugh to Miami. I would take Harbaugh here. I would love Harbaugh here. As much as I like Mike McDaniel, Jim Harbaugh having the proven track record, having coached a team to a Super Bowl, former coach of the year in the NFC, I would take Jim Harbaugh and his experience over Mike McDaniel and the roll of the dice in a guy who's never been a head coach before. I would love either of them. Honestly, the only thing that would really make me scratch my head is if the Dolphins come out of this coaching search with Kellen Moore, who's reportedly a finalist. I don't think he's ready to be the head coach of an NFL team yet. I think Moore is just too green, right? Could he be the next Sean McVay, who was like 15 when he got hired to head coach the Rams? Maybe, but I think it's too big of a gamble. I think Mike McDaniel, he's enough of an offensive innovator, and he's made enough of his bones already. I think he's ready for an opportunity to be a head coach. I don't think Kellen Moore is yet, but to me, Jim Harbaugh, I think that would be the closest thing to a home run hire if you could make it. So I would love to have Jim Harbaugh here. Chris at the Fins Tailgate, he says, I've been saying this for weeks. Harbaugh is coming to Miami. Chris has been saying it. Taco has been saying it. Our guy Dave Friedman, Taco About Sports, who's going to join us tomorrow for Taco Tuesday. He's been saying it for weeks. My buddy Sluggo has been saying it for weeks that Harbaugh is coming here. So we'll see. I'm saving the receipts. If you guys are right, I'll give you credit. If you're wrong, you will be publicly shamed. That's the way we do things around here. We hold people accountable, right? The way people were holding me accountable for my tweet yesterday during the first quarter when I said the Bengals were going to get smoked. I think they were down like 14-3 at that time, something like I said the Bengals were going to get smoked. And yeah, they pulled off an incredible comeback. Patrick Mahomes really pissed it, but they pulled out an incredible comeback. And yeah, I didn't delete the tweet. I owned up to it. People were giving me crap. That's the name of the game. That is the name of the game, my friends. Man, I think I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty quickly because for some reason it does this sometimes. My computer is not charging. I've got the cable plugged into it. I think I might need a new charging cord, but I've got the cord plugged into it. The computer is not charging. I would estimate I have like 6 minutes of battery life left, which is probably plenty of time. But if you just see like my screen go blank and you're like, oh my God, where did he go? probably my MacBook died, but we're not quite at that. It hasn't flashed like the emergency red alert, low battery. It hasn't flashed me that just yet. Estefan, I love you. Thank you so much for coming in. He says, Donno, man, I'm late. He was cleaning up the house. I'll take Harbaugh and McDaniels. And by the way, it's McDaniel, not McDaniels. I'm not calling that Estefan. I'm just saying that to everybody. I even say it wrong sometimes, right? I mean, the new Raiders head coach, that's McDaniels, Josh McDaniel. The guy we might hire, no relation, Mike McDaniel. So we shall see. But by the way, to what he's saying here, I personally don't think Mike McDaniel is going to leave San Francisco if it's not a head coaching job. I know Mike LaFleur did do that last year. He was the 49ers OC and left that staff to become the Jets OC. I just think McDaniel, first of all, he's getting more head coaching consideration, and he and the Shanahans are so tight. I think he's only leaving if it's a head coaching job. So, I mean, I would love it. Like if somebody else were to come in to be the head coach, like if Harbaugh came in to be the head coach, and I don't think he would, but if he were to hire McDaniel to be the OC, I'd say, oh, that's fantastic. But no, I don't think McDaniel is coming here for anything less than head coach. Indeed. Thank you so much for tuning in. Fanatical, thank you so much. Oh, wait, hold on. I want to find the person who left this super chat so I can put it on the screen. Level 2 noob, thank you so much. The Disney Churro Fund. Yeah, I am. I'm actually, I'm going to Disney at the end of the week. I don't know if I mentioned that on the show or not. Maybe I did. But yeah, I'm actually not having a show on Friday because we're going to be driving up to Orlando. My 4-year-old kid loves it. I also love it. Like I use the 4-year-old kid as an excuse to go to Disney. But then the other thing about Disney is we pay like 2 arms and 2 legs for annual passes. They're so expensive that it's like to justify the money on the annual passes. Any free weekend we have, like there's no football games this weekend. So it's like, giddy up. Let's go to Disney. Let's get our money's worth. So we will, that churro money will go a long way. That's like, the prices are so high. That's like half a churro, but it's something. We appreciate the donation. Chuck Cooper says, change out the mice on the wheel. I guess he's talking about the Dolphins front office. Oh, I feel like I've been jumping around a little bit in the order of the chat. John R says Harbaugh is not coming. To me, I'm not expecting it either. I would say there is about a 70% chance Mike McDaniel is the next Dolphins head coach. I'm going to put about 20% on Harbaugh and then about 10% on Kellen Moore. So I think it's more likely than not Mike McDaniel is the next head coach, and the odds for Harbaugh are relatively slim. But I would feel a little bit perturbed if Harbaugh leaves Michigan and goes to Minnesota, because then I'd be to Stephen Ross. What are you doing, bro? This is your guy. You couldn't be the one to bring him back to the NFL. You let somebody else do it. I would be disappointed. If Harbaugh were to stay at Michigan because he might be leveraging them for more money, then fine, right? Okay, he gets more money from Michigan. He stays there. He's happy. They're happy. He doesn't go somewhere else in the NFL. But if Harbaugh comes back to the NFL and it's not Miami, when he and Stephen Ross have that connection, I would be very disappointed. True Blazer says perturbed is an understatement, bro. I'm a lot more angry on Twitter than I am in real life, right? People saw my tweet yesterday where I said Joe Burrow in late January versus Tua Tagovailoa in late January. You know, it's a picture of Joe Burrow winning the the AFC championship game, and then a picture of Tua playing golf. And bro, you guys, some of you take Twitter way too seriously. And I take advantage of that because sometimes I'll tweet out these little pot shots on Tua knowing that I'm going to get these angry responses. And it's usually from people who literally have a picture of Tua in their avatar. There's a lot more people like that than you think. Like there is an army. I call them the Tua avatar army. Like people who literally make Twitter accounts just to devote them to Tua Tagovailoa. Some of them have the word Tua in their Twitter name. I love trolling you guys. I'm sorry. Like, you know, those who actually know me and those who actually watch me know that I like trolling Tua a little bit. I'm not convinced he's ever going to be a franchise quarterback. I also don't think the kid sucks. Like I think he can win. You just need to have the right team around him. But man, I love poking the Tua lovers. By the way, I just got the low battery warning from the MacBook. So let me go through some more shout outs quickly here before we wrap it up. Nicole, thank you so much. Bengals have a turd O-line. Burrow makes plays, Tua doesn't. That's another thing that causes arguments. The Bengals, I think, have like the 28th ranked offensive line in the league. Dolphins had the 32nd ranked. There's still a pretty wide gap. Like the Dolphins O-line definitely worse than the Bengals O-line, but at the same time, watching that game yesterday, Joe Burrow made some incredible throws after eluding pressure, stepping up through the pocket, had a couple of big runs that way as well. Like he did really well even when the coverages and when the blocking broke down, he was able to make something out of a collapsed pocket. So he's impressive. Listen, if you're trying to argue, anyone out there, if you're trying to argue that Tua is better than or even as good as Joe Burrow, I think that's a biased losing argument. And you know what? Joe Burrow was drafted number 1. Tua was drafted number 5. Burrow should be better. Okay? So you can be upset 3 years later that the Dolphins didn't tank properly. What's done is done, right? At the end of the day, 2020, April draft night, Joe Burrow was off the board. He was not there at number 5 for the Dolphins to pick. So don't let it bother you, right? When I troll you on Twitter, don't get all in your feelings. Just laugh, right? These tweets are intended to make you laugh, not make you angry. Do I like, riling up the 2 Avatar army? I do a little bit, but, I mean it with love. Jorge, thank you so much for tuning in. My guy, Brooklyn Rob, always. And by the way, see, Brooklyn Rob actually profits off of my bad gambling advice because when I tweeted out Bengals were going to get smoked, he went and he bet the Bengals on the money line and he won like $1,000. So he faded me because I'm the mush, and I'm glad it worked out for you, Brooklyn Rob. If I can make you money in reverse, that works for me. John R., thank you so much. Let's see who else that I haven't already shouted out here. Fanatical, I think I might have shouted out already. Color commentary, hello. Lance, hello. Let me do a couple more, then my computer's literally going to die. John, Chris, are you Greek? You must be Greek with a name like that. My brother-in-law is Greek. He could pronounce your last name. I cannot. All right, my computer is dying. I will talk to you guys later. Make sure we see you out at the Quarterdeck tonight, 7:30 p.m. Quarterdeck in Davie. Make sure you sign up at betus.com, also on prizepicks.com. I'll talk more about them tomorrow. We will talk to you guys tomorrow at 3 p.m. right here on Donno Daily on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. See ya.